So hello everyone and welcome to another edition of More Talks from Thomas More University, where we present short, powerful talks devoted to spreading ideas, thoughts, and information to our community. I'm your host, Michael Orr, and I'm very excited again to introduce our panelists for today. We are doing another sports update for Thomas More University. I have with me here Terry Connor, our athletics director, Lindsay Egan, our assistant athletics director and head softball coach. I have Jeff Hands, our head women's basketball coach, and Trevor Stellman, our head football coach. So great to have all of you guys with us today. As a quick reminder, this More Talk is being recorded and will be made available. We will be sending a link out to Thomas More University's Moreover website. That's at more.thomasmore.edu. If you find this talk engaging and thought-provoking, please share it with friends and others. Our chat is open, so if you have questions as an audience, please feel free to leave them there. I'll send out other reminders during the talk. We would love to have you participate as well. And without further ado, I'd like to give each of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. Terry, would you mind starting?
Sure. Terry Connor, Director of Athletics, in my 22nd year here at Thomas More.
Excellent. And Trevor?
Trevor Stellman, head football coach. Entering my, I guess it's the 11th season coaching, third as the head coach, and 15th season overall.
Excellent. Coach Hands?
Jeff Hands, head women's basketball coach, entering year number 10 here at Thomas More.
And Coach Egan?
I'm Lindsay Egan. I'm the head softball coach, an assistant AD, and this is the start of my 13th year.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. There have been updates to our sports seasons, and I think we're all really excited to get an opportunity to hear a bit more about what that looks like from your end and what you all are seeing. So the big news really is that the Mid-South Conference announced on August 10th that it is going to be moving fall sports conferences, regular seasons and championships to the spring semester so that it aligns with the NAIA's recent decision to move fall national championships to the spring. The same is now true for soccer. It's going to begin in February. So the big question is, what are sports able to do now during the fall season, and what do you expect the rest of this semester in the fall to look like for each of your sports?
So I'll start off, and then I'll let the individual coaches jump in with what they're doing with their teams. So, we're practicing right now. Most of the sports are practicing and conditioning, lifting, and that type of thing. We're keeping them engaged that way. In October, we'll look at some. There'll be some competitions, some out of conference competitions that we'll be looking at doing, and then that way getting ready for the spring to go full go once we hit January. So we're, like I said, the national championships are pushed back, so we'll be playing our conference matches in the springtime. So it'll be a little bit boring since we only have like 30 sports going at one time. So we'll have some time off and that kind of stuff to go to the beach or something, I'm sure.
Beach sounds great right now, personally. Lindsay, would you mind going next? What are you seeing on your end?
Sure. We started practice on Tuesday, so it's great to be back on the field. It's been almost 6 months since we've had a team practice. So what we're doing is we're keeping our kids in smaller groups, and we're cleaning our equipment quite often, not only before and after practice, but also during practice. When one group goes from hitting to defense, we're making sure all of the balls are getting cleaned and the equipment is getting cleaned between groups. And we've got our kids split up. So we've got some kids in one dugout, some in another, some on the bleachers, so that they're not, close to each other. We're enforcing masks before and after practice or anytime that they are standing, or standing around or in close proximity to others. But we hope to play some competition here soon this fall, since we're outside and we're a lower contact sport. So we're excited.
That's great. Jeff?
Yeah, we're doing kind of like what Terry said, open gyms, weights, again, very similar to softball and what Coach Egan's doing of keeping our circle's small within our open gyms and keeping 10 on one side, 10 on the other side, and they don't ever cross the play. So that those 10 can mix it up a little bit. And we will start workouts our season. I guess you could say practices will start October 5th for us, but we'll start doing group workouts on Monday where we can get on the floor and actually coach them. And that'd be the first time since our last practice on March 11th when everything got shut down. So we're looking forward to getting started on Monday.
I'm sure that the students are and the athletes are really excited about being able to get back to that. Trevor?
So right now we're currently just working out. We've got smaller groups, so we're trying to keep the guys from cross-contaminating, I guess, if you would, with other groups. So they're lifting 3 days a week right now and trying to get as much as we can, because obviously we lost a lot in the spring with not being able to work out as much. So it's almost trying to catch up from what we lost. Hopefully starting Monday, we're going to get on the field and start doing a little bit more football-related activities. So getting back into offensive and defensive position groups and smaller groups for us to be able to start installing some of our offense and our defense so that our players understand schematically what we're going to be doing in the springtime, and just trying to continue to push the social distancing and making sure that our guys are being smart with the time that we have together, but more importantly, being smart with the time that we have apart from each other to ensure us of being able to move forward into our process of getting back into football.
Michael, I think the feedback on what the coach just said there, they're practicing, they're doing different things, and they're trying to keep their teams in small groups and the cross contamination, that kind of stuff, and they're doing a great job with that kind of stuff. The thing that people don't realize and how difficult it is when you've got if you do your small group where there might be somebody living with somebody else on the team in a different, in a dorm setting or whatever. So it's there's so many challenges, and like Trevor said, one thing they'll face is if they have lifting groups and they do smaller lifting groups, well, what about their class schedules and their living arrangements and that? So there's just so many factors that go into what these coaches are having to put into it right now to do the best job they possibly can to keep everybody as safe as they can. So, we have all those different protocols in place, but, at the end of the day, they're college kids. It's tough to try and work with them and keep them from going out together and going to parties and that kind of stuff. It's a difficult situation to deal with.
It absolutely is. And, like you said, Terry, just the added layer of logistics, trying to manage all of those connection points, both, inside of their athletics environment and then in their academic and social environments too. I've been really impressed with how you guys have been handling everything so far. Something that I know people are interested in is how the students are handling it. Can you speak to both what the reaction has been from your athletes to the decision to move things to the spring for different sports, and then also how they're dealing with or how they're adjusting to getting back to practices? I'm sure they're excited to be getting back into field practice, but I'd love to hear your take on that and what you're seeing from our athletes.
I think and I'll let the coaches speak more to this because they're in more daily contact with them, but you see it across the country. So it's there's not really the reaction's kind of like, well, everybody's doing it. So I think that would be the overall reaction to it. But like I said, the coaches are more in personal contact with them. I'll let them handle it.
Jeff, you mind starting this time?
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. They're excited. They want to be back. The camaraderie, the relationships they build with their teammates throughout the year and doing stuff. And, it's something that, again, was taken away from them. And there's all the challenges that are going to be there. But again, we have to do things that on our end as coaches and even our students and everybody to make sure that we are safe, because it's something we got to control what we can control. And when we're in our groups, that part of it, but like Terry said and Trevor said, and I think outside it's a tough situation, and they know that. So we're talking to them about that, and they're probably tired of hearing us say stuff, but we're going to keep saying it because hopefully they'll buy into it. And I think they have. I've got my team, but walking around seeing everybody with masks on and doing stuff like that, because they know they want to play, and the only way to play is to follow some type of the guidelines.
It's true. You can't play if you're not healthy. Trevor, what are you hearing from your football team?
I think the biggest thing is like these guys have said, our kids are excited to be able to compete again. When you get something taken away from you, it's a harsh reality to face that, you don't really know how much you love something until you don't have it. So for our players for them to be able to know now when our season's going to begin, to have an official start date of that first game, I think is critical for those guys to know what we're working towards as far as a date. But at the same time, it's a matter of making sure that they understand that if we don't do this stuff correctly now, that date could get pushed back, or it could kind of dissolve and not be there at all. So the biggest thing is just making sure that our guys understand that it's really, these guys said it perfectly. We have to control what we can control. And really it's just taking everything day by day and being able to overcome whatever's thrown at us to make the appropriate changes that we need to in order to move forward and make the best of what we have. Because, the situation that for us that we didn't want to be in as a football program or around the country is, to try to play in the fall and then stuff get canceled again, like our spring sports and winter sports got thrown into last year. So for us to have an opportunity now to know when we're going to practice, when we're going to do things and play that first game, it gives us our players, I think, a little bit more excitement to know this is why we're working so hard right now so that we can get to this point and then make the most of it once we get to February.
I'm sure that's got to be a huge motivator for them, being able to see those goals in sight, have a clear vision of that. Lindsay, are you seeing anything similar with softball?
Definitely. And I think Trevor said it best, when you don't realize how much you love something until it's taken away, with your teammates and practices and games. And so far this year, I see our players going up to the field in the last couple weeks. They grab, come get the field keys and they go up and they're doing work on their own, more than I've ever seen in the last 12 or 13 years. So they're really excited to be back practicing and back with their teammates again.
I can only imagine. And I've seen them out there, it really is amazing seeing how the students have taken initiative inside of this space. I would also like to just remind everyone in the chat that if you have questions for our coaches and our athletic directors, you can enter those in our chat function. I'm more than happy to have those questions asked as well. I want to make sure that we're addressing our audience's questions. The next question that I have actually is directly related to that kind of initiative that we're seeing from our students. Lindsay, you mentioned that it had been 6 months since you'd had field practice. Trevor, I know you said something similar as well. How are you guys as coaches and how are we as an athletics department working to keep student athletes engaged and focused during this time? I'm sure that there's definitely an adjustment period, and I'm sure there's a lot of excitement from our students to be getting back into it. How are you as coaches adjusting to that? Lindsay, would you mind starting on this one?
Yeah. I don't think I don't think it's that hard, because I think they're really excited to be here. And they're engaged in practice and they're ready to go and they're ready to compete and work hard every day. So from that standpoint, I don't think it's difficult to engage them there. I think we have to work hard and make sure that they're staying engaged in classes. I know a lot of classes are online or hybrids. And I know some students are going to struggle a little bit maybe in those areas. So we just have to make sure we're talking to our athletes about academics and making sure they're staying up on their work and getting help when they need help with that.
Trevor, would you mind going next?
Yeah, I think, Lindsay said it perfectly. When a lot of our players are chomping at the bit, it's that, when it comes to the sport, it's not that hard. I don't think for us to keep them engaged there. It's a matter of making sure that they have the holistic approach, that they can be as engaged as they want right now in football, but if they don't take care of what they need to in the classroom, the football's not going to be there in the spring regardless. So that's kind of the bigger aspect right now is, we want them to be focused on what we're doing in our small groups and our lifting groups and things like that. But realistically, this is a great time for them to focus as much as they can wholeheartedly on their academic side to put themselves in a great situation that there's not going to be any issues moving forward in the spring. And something that Lindsay said previously is, it's kind of a strange situation for us to be in as coaches because, we always want players to do more in the off season or just in any free time that they get. And right now it's hard for us as coaches because kids want to do stuff and they want to do group stuff. And we have to kind of be like, hey, make sure you get screened, do all the stuff that you need to do before you go onto the field and before you do this stuff. And it's kind of counterintuitive from what we would be saying to them in a normal situation. But at the same time, it's great for us to have those conversations because it means that our kids are excited about getting back into the sport. For me, it's something that all summer I kind of looked forward to that, we couldn't do anything with our players. We couldn't see them. So it was more or less thinking that, when they got back here on campus, those guys were going to be ready to go and to do stuff. And, the hardest part I think for us is going to be building that team chemistry because we can't do things together. And I think all of us as coaches, that's one thing that we always want to pride ourselves on is our programs being families. And it's hard, when you don't get to be around people as much as what you would typically like, is how are they going to engage each other once they get back together. And that's what, we're going to probably have to fight the hardest on once we get back into our seasons and being able to practice full go is, how are we engaging these guys with each other, not necessarily just within the sport or within academics.
That's an excellent point. And I actually would like to return to the point of team chemistry and that kind of engagement in a minute. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not really. They those two covered it pretty well. I mean, I'm not going to beat the dead horse, I guess you could say. It's just, they're engaged and, the academics is challenging because you again, it's just like the athletic side of it. You're used to doing so much. Class, you're used to going to class and being engaged in class, and now it's a new way of life. It's a new way. You'd have one or two classes maybe online, but now everything is. So, making sure that they are our students are doing what they need to do, and Trevor. All the sports have a tougher task of it because you have to make sure they take care of the classroom so that they're eligible for the spring semester. I think we're going to be able to do our non-conference stuff, so we're still in the same situation. But like Lindsay's used to having to do that because that's how they normally have done it. Make sure that fall semester's taken care of, but it's a little different for football and soccer and volleyball this year.
It definitely is. Terry, what are you seeing from the whole departmental level, from the program level?
It's just a crazy time, and the coaches are there's so many other things they have to focus on right now, and trying to help their students get through and that. And I think that's they're doing a great job of that, and that's they're doing a great job of keeping them engaged and trying to keep them focused on what they need to do so that we can get to January and hopefully we can get out and get some great competitions and that kind of stuff. So that's but like they said, these kids are resilient. They get it, they understand, and they're going after it, and they're going to be ready to go, and they're excited to get there.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, and I expect nothing less. Our kids are really amazing. Our student athletes are they're engaged. But I do want to return to that question that Trevor brought up about team chemistry. I remember the last time that we talked, someone had mentioned that, it felt almost like there was so much more one-on-one engagement. Now that some of the sports are starting to engage more in either small group or some on-field activities, I'm wondering what it's looking like for you guys to rebuild that morale, rebuild that chemistry. Have you seen anything different in the last few months, or have you thought of or engaged with any other strategies for how to go about that now that the setting isn't exactly what you're used to or the traditional way of going about that? Trevor, do you mind starting on this one?
Yeah, that's fine. I think the biggest thing is, when you bring in, for us especially, bring in larger, first year student classes, it's really about how those guys are going to mesh with the older players and the guys that have been here. And one thing that I've seen just in the little bit of time that we have been able to be together as a whole is I feel like there's not as much of a gap from those older guys to those younger guys, because everybody's coming in really on the same same level because everybody hasn't, we haven't been doing anything since March or February, whenever it was that we got kind of shut down. So, the thing that I like to see is when I walk around or we're in different settings, is seeing players talk to one another still. And that's something that, in past years, guys may have just been kind of tired of each other at this point because you haven't played a game and all you're doing is hitting the same people and doing the same stuff at practice every day. Where, this year, it's kind of funny looking at it now. When we had the previous talk, I think I was probably more concerned about how well our team was going to be able to come together. And now after seeing stuff, I'm almost kind of interested as to see if we might be one of the closer teams that we've ever had, just because we've all had to go through this together. And it's not to say that everybody else in the country is not going to be the same way, but I can only deal with what I see on a daily basis. And for us, it's exciting because I think our older players understand that the guys that came in for a reason. They came in to help us win a championship. And, we're all kind of on the same trend now of having that second recruiting cycle in the NAIA to where we're all working towards the same common goal. And that's the most important thing is just making sure that everybody has that common mindset of we're going to go after it and we're going to work together to make sure that we can accomplish everything that we want to as a team.
Excellent. Lindsay, what are you seeing? How are things looking on your end for the softball team now that you guys are doing on-field practice?
Yeah. So typically I make our players, throw with a different person every day, hit with a different person, that type of thing. And that way we kind of mingle and get to know each other and form chemistry that way. But we can't do that right now. So I'm like, well, you get to throw with your sister every day, or you get to throw with your roommate every day for the next, couple weeks. But like Trevor said, I mean, we've all been going through this together for the last 6 months, and it kind of, brings the athletes together, and so I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think we're fortunate. We've got a lot of young or first-year players on our team that have either had sisters in the program or know a lot of the kids that are already in the program. So I think that helps, but it's just going to take a little bit more time because they're not able to be all together at one time right now.
Right. Jeff, are you seeing anything now, or is the feel of the court changing now that you've got open gym times?
They're starting to learn each other, figure each other out on the court, and that's, you have so many new players for us as well, just like Trevor and Lindsay said. It's, getting the upperclassmen to connect with the first years of the transfers is always key, and you have time to work. We always have time to work on it. I mean, we're not starting right away. So, but watching them, like I said, 10 playing on one side, 10 playing on the other, watching them cheer each other on in between or talk to each other a little bit from a distance in between games or something like that, hearing those things, it's good to have. And, the workout starting next week will really pick up some of the chemistry and start working on putting in stuff in that we have and move forward.
Excellent. Terry, you seen anything at the program level?
No, I think they covered that. They have the individual, with their teams, they're going to see it up close and a lot better than I am.
Absolutely. We do have a question from our chat. Thank you for submitting that. If anyone else has questions, please feel free to submit those there. Women's basketball, are we expecting a delay similar to football, or do we have anticipated start dates that are set? Obviously, it's still an evolving situation, but I was wondering if we could get an update on where the women's basketball season is standing at the moment.
Yeah, so the schedules, the conference is working on the schedules now. So we've been in calls weekly. So they're putting together the both basketball, men's, women's basketball, and volleyball right now. And they should hopefully we'll be releasing those in the first part of next week is what we're hoping. So they're putting those together with obviously the adjustments we've had to make, and then the non-conference schedules. We've got to make sure that our conference schedule doesn't interfere with that, and might have to move some of those games around. But we're anticipating right now starting those schedules in the first part of November.
Excellent. Next question that I've got is with so many sports now, we're starting to see the reality of spectatorless games or alternative ways of engaging with the sports as a fan and as a spectator. Have there been any developments in that area for Thomas More University? Do we have any sort of plans in place, or what does it look like our fans are going to be able to engage with the sports? What will that be for them?
Michael, that's a great question, because that's obviously a topic on everybody's mind, and right now I think it's too early to say. I mean, we're watching. I'm seeing what any colleges that are having sports right now, or especially our like our local high schools and what they're doing right now. What's going to be allowed, and I can sit here and say what we're going to do, and then it might change next week. So we're putting plans in place. We've had all kind of discussions about what we can do, and that my goal is to get the parents into the games, so that they can see their kids play. I think that's the most important thing, and then accomplish that, and then begin to move from there. And so that's what I think we need to focus on, and where we will start with everything. And obviously inside outside is different. So it's figuring that all out right now, and I think it's safe to say they will be a mask and they will be social distanced, and we'll go from there with that. So that's kind of where all the talks have been. I don't think we'll have a conference-wide mandate. I think it'll be up to the individual school, because we have teams in Tennessee, we have teams in Kentucky, and obviously we have to follow the governor and the CDC guidelines.
That is an interesting point, that, being in a league that is interstate, trying to manage some of those expectations and set guidelines and ways of engaging that are feasible for everyone. That is an interesting point.
Well, and it's quite a bit different than, I mean, like I said, I'm watching the high schools to see what they're doing, but it's also quite a bit different because the high schools, you're still in your local community pretty much. We're talking about traveling 5 hours away, or even 3 hours away, and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different factors that go involved with college as opposed to that. So it's not the same. As people want to believe it always is the same, and it's not. So we have to look at a lot of different factors, and as far as travel and all that kind of stuff. And do we allow visiting fans to come from another state to come into our facilities? And so it's it is a challenge, and we're discussing that, and looking at all those possibilities and what the best way to handle it is. So I'm not too sure any of the coaches would be super upset if no fans were allowed. They could just coach their team. I don't know if they had nobody yelling at them or whatever. So
I'd be upset. I like getting yelled at.
But that is good to know. The name of the game is right now for everything is being nimble and being able to transform with this current situation. And it sounds like you guys are in a good position to keep doing that. I guess the final question, first, I want to thank you all for your time today, taking the time to, give an update on this. Most importantly, I think for our audience, how can our community, how can people outside of the teams help support your teams right now? What is most helpful for you guys? How can we engage with you and be part of the athletics program at Thomas More right now?
I think I'll start off, and I think one of the biggest things is, that we're all doing what we're supposed to do. We're social distancing. We're wearing a mask. We're washing our hands. Everything that everybody keeps saying, that we're doing it. So we get a chance to allow them to compete and do what they love to do. They love to compete. They love to play, and we sure want them to be out there. And we're doing everything we possibly can. So, I think doing that and reminding everybody else to do it, and if we all start believing in it and doing it, we'll be able to be out there.
Jeff, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I mean, what Terry said, I think very similar to what we talked about in July when we did the last one, and engage in social media stuff. I know each one of our sports are doing things. The sports information department's doing stuff. as well, daily basis to follow us. And, you know, they released football schedule, I think, what's today, Thursday, they released that, Tuesday maybe, and then soccer was released yesterday. So, you know, follow those guys and, you know, wear the mask, do what you can. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, if you see a women's basketball player not wearing a mask, get on them. Tell them. I mean, you know, because I can't police them 24 hours a day. And, you know, because their kids are going to do stuff. So, you know, tell them if they want to play. That's just how I am. I know other coaches will probably say the same thing. You know, thank you. And thanks for having us today. I don't know if you'll get to that part later on.
Yeah. Lindsay, any thoughts?
Really just stay healthy, you know, take care of your family and take care of your friends. And, you know, when you go out, have your mask on. And, yeah, thanks for having us.
And Trevor?
Same thing those guys said is, you know, if you see football player, not just, you know, if he's not wearing a mask, yell at him for not wearing a mask, but have a conversation with them, see how their experience is. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things is, you know, for us as a football team, we have 165 players that, you know, every kid's going to be different. So, you know, if you can talk to one kid, you may change their experience just by, you know, being kind of getting a little bit more of what his experience is like right now, and to make sure that he knows that, you know, things are going to get better, and that, you know, as a community, that you know, as a community member, that you're there supporting them. I think that's the biggest thing right now is, you know, our kids hear it from us constantly, but hearing it from a face that they may not know, and hearing it from a stranger is probably going to mean a lot more to them than somebody that's saying it to them every day. So, you know, continue to do your part. We're doing our part, and, you know, hopefully we can all get through this fall healthy and safe, and keep moving forward and getting back to whatever the new normal looks like.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you again, all of you, so much for joining us. And thank you to our coaches and our directors for taking the time out of their day to be with us. It's a real pleasure to get to speak with you and to get to share these updates with our community. I know people are really interested. And thank you all for joining us for another edition of More Talks. If you would like to see more from More Talks, you can join us at more.thomasmore.edu. And there will be a link. This has been recorded, so this will be able to be shared. If you found relevant information here, or you'd like to share these updates with other people in your community, please feel free to do so. That will be going out shortly. And thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.